Hello everyone, welcome to video number 5 of Java Fundamentals. So far, the programs that we have created, they cannot take input, they can only give output. And every time you run them, they always give the same output. So wouldn't it be more fun if we can allow the user to give input and let that determine what the program outputs? That's what we're getting into right now. So Java has already programmed up the method that you can allow the user to give input. So in order to use it, you first need to import it. So above on the first line of your code, type import java.util, util dot, and then you can either do scanner with the capital S or you can do star. I would prefer star because it's easier and it imports many more things than just the scanner itself. All right, and then semicolon. And now in your code, you need to initialize the scanner before you use it. So to do that, you type scanner with the capital S in equals new scanner parentheses system dot in semicolon. And this might be a lot to remember, but don't worry, we're going to continue using these in the next few videos. So even if you can't remember the syntax, that's fine. And then now how to use the scanner? Well, let's just initialize a variable and suppose that we wanted the user to decide what the value of this variable is. In this case, we can use in.next int with the capital I and then parentheses, semicolon. All right, so this allows the user to input what A is equal to. All right, and now let's just print A after that. All right, let's run this. All right, so now we can type in what we want A to be. So let's just type in 9. Let's type in, all right, and then press enter. All right, so we basically type 9 and then enter. So A is equal to 9. And then when you print it out, it's going to print out 9. And by the way, for this initialization, you don't have to make this in. You can type SC, but in this case, you need to make all of the in.next int. You need to change the in to SC as well. And this won't change the program at all. It will work the exact same way. However, usually you'll see it written as in because in is short for input. So let's just stick with that. And you don't need to take an integer for input. You can, for example, take a double. So in this case, you change the int into double with the capital D. All right, and don't forget to change the variable type. All right, so now let's type in 2.7, enter, and then it gives out 2.7. If you wanted to take in a string, then you would do in.next and then nothing after that. So let's run this and then type in a string. And keep in mind that your string should not have spaces. In reality, a string can have spaces, but if you're taking input, you should not type spaces. All right, so we just typed in a random string and it printed it out. All right, but there's Java, however, cannot take a char as an input. So if you do in.next char, this will give an error. So let's run this and see what happens. See, it says error, but there is still a way you can take a char as an input because like chars, examples of chars are just A, B, C, and now A, that is both a char and a string. It's also a string with just one character. So the way you can take a char as an input is to do in not next. So this will take a string as an input, and assuming that your new user knows that they're only supposed to type one character for the string, then you can do char at and then 0. All right, so basically this takes in an input, and assuming that the user knows that they're only supposed to type one character, and then char at 0, that changes the input to a char. So let's type in t. All right, so it took in t as the input, and then it printed it out. So now with this, you can instantly create a lot of cool programs. All right, so let's make a few more variables. All right, so I just initialized 3 integer variables, and they're all going to be whatever input the user gives. So now I'm going to print out A times B plus C. All right, let's give this program a try. All right, I'm going to type in 9 and then 6 and 3. All right, enter. It prints out 57 because we set A equal to 9 and then B equal to 6 and C equal to 3. So 9 times 6 plus 3, that is 57. We can also apply giving input to many other programs that we have created in past videos. So in video 4, we created this program where you start with an integer, and I just started with 3, but instead of this, let's allow the user to decide what integer we start with. All right, so let's just import the scanner, all right, and then initialize it. And then change this to in not next int. All right, make sure you print out A. I'm going to input 7. All right, it prints out what we wanted. So now we're getting into comparing chars and strings. So if you want to compare two characters, then you first need to determine the letter case. Lowercase letters are greater than uppercase letters. And if you have two characters that are of the same case, then you compare them using the order of the alphabet. So uppercase X is less than uppercase Y, which is less than uppercase Z, which is less than lowercase a, which is less than lowercase b, which is less than lowercase c, and so on. And comparing strings, to do that, Java will scan each character from left to right until it notices a difference. And whichever character is greater, that string is greater. So first it scans the first letters of the two strings. So it notices that they're the same. So it moves on to the second characters and they're still the same. So then it moves on to the third, and then it notices a difference. So you have lowercase a and capital Z. And since lowercase a is greater than capital Z, that means the first string is greater. And by the way, if the two strings are the same, then Java will not notice any differences throughout the entire scanning process, and therefore the strings are equal. So how do you compare chars and strings in Java? To compare chars, you can use the same method you would use to compare numbers. You can do a char and then an operator such as greater than another char. All right, and since lowercase r is greater than capital S, this should output true. And it does. And you can also use the other operators such as equals to. And keep in mind that for strings, the only operator that you can use is equals to. So let's try to use the equals equals for two strings. All right, so this prints out true as it should. But keep in mind that the other operators will not work for strings. So if you were to do a string and then greater than another string, that would give an error. So the general method that you use for comparing strings isn't equals equals. Instead, you can use a method called compare to. So I'll show what that is. So we have two strings. So first type a string and then type dot compare to and make sure you have a capital T. All right, and then parentheses, another string. And what this does is if the first string is greater, then it will output a positive number. If the two strings are equal, then it will output 0. If the second string is greater, then it will output a negative number. So in this case, the first string is greater, so it should output a positive number. So let's see what it outputs. All right, it outputs 7, which is positive. All right, so now you can also use this method for comparing chars. And the way to do that is by doing a char minus another char. So if the first char is greater, then it will output a positive number. If the two chars are equal, then it will output 0. And if the second char is greater, then it will output a negative number. All right, it outputs 17, which is positive. And notice how R is the 18th letter of the alphabet, and A is the first letter of the alphabet. And since 18 minus 1 is 17, that's why it prints out 17. So knowing this, you can determine which letter of the alphabet any letter is. So let's suppose that you wanted to know which letter of the alphabet is L. In this case, you could do L minus A plus 1. Let's run this. It prints out 12. So that means that L is the 12th letter of the alphabet. And if you wanted to do this for a capital letter, then let's suppose that you wanted to know which letter of the alphabet is U, and you had an uppercase U. In this case, you would do uppercase U minus uppercase A, and then plus 1. If you did lowercase a, then capital U is less than lowercase a, so it will output a negative number, and you won't be able to know which letter of the alphabet is U. But anyway, so after doing this, it outputs 21, so that means that U is the 21st letter of the alphabet. So the topics covered today were taking input and comparing chars and strings. And we're at the halfway point of the course because the course is 10 videos long and you have just finished video 5. So if you have time, I would recommend that you check out the spreadsheet in the description. And that spreadsheet shows the list of content covered in each video. So you can see the content that was covered in videos 1 through 4. And if you forgot any of it, then you can go back and review. If you want more educational content, make sure you are subscribed. And that's the end of this video. So I'll see you in video number 6.